Hello, Ryan Tilley. Thank you for joining us. Ryan, can you share a bit about your early days as a startup founder and what initially sparked your passion for designing accessible products?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kate. Awesome to be here and share our story. So I guess, growing up as a kid, I always loved making things, creating things. And so that sort of led me down the path of being a design engineer. So I studied a double degree at RMIT doing industrial design and mechanical engineering. And I was always really keen on like building furniture actually. So it was a bit of a shift for me then to sort of move into the assistive technology. But for me, that was the catalyst for that was during a summer break at uni. I attended a study tour which was focused on looking into some of the issues faced by people with limited mobility, people with disability, an aging population, etc. And as part of that, spent 3 days in a wheelchair getting around Singapore. And so for me, that really opened my eyes to those challenges. It kind of put myself in that person's place. And as a budding designer and engineer, I was like, oh, I feel like we could make these wheelchairs so much better. So I started Rove wheelchairs in at the start of 2020 with Bryce. And Bryce has been in a wheelchair now for like over 17 years. Been selling wheelchairs for a long time. Represented Australia through wheelchair rugby and that sort of thing. And so I said to him, do you want to do a Australian-made lightweight wheelchair? And he was all in. So we started that, like I said, at the start of 2020, just as COVID was hitting, which was quite an interesting time. So we started sort of the R&D and the development of the product. And it's essentially, I'll explain the product, and maybe we'll get into that a bit more in the interview. But it's a super lightweight wheelchair made using 3D printed titanium and carbon fiber. So yeah, where we are now, we sort of started back in 2020. We launched the product in 2021, and slowly growing the team. So we've got a core team now of 7, manufacturing all the wheelchairs here in Melbourne, Australia. So quite exciting.
I'd love to talk to you a bit more about Rove and how you made that shift into that space. I mean, assistive technology and wheelchairs in particular haven't dramatically changed in decades. So why do you think innovation in the disability tech space has been so slow, and what's Rove doing to change that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. The wheelchair as we know it really hasn't changed a lot, for the past few decades. But in contrast to that, bike technology and bicycles have come a long, long way. And I know that because I love riding bikes. I've sort of always ridden bikes as a kid and love mountain bike riding. And so sort of seeing the progression of features and components and geometries and all of that in the bike space, but kind of seeing the juxtaposition with the wheelchairs sort of staying a little bit stagnant. It's been quite interesting for me. And a lot of what we're trying to do at Rove is like, how can we like bridge that gap and take some of that technology from the bike space and bring it into wheelchairs and make wheelchairs lighter, faster, more efficient, and just a better user experience.
You've got Dylan Alcott as an investor and brand ambassador for Rove. How has that partnership helped amplify your message, and what's it like working with someone who's such a strong advocate for disability inclusion?
Yeah, look, it's amazing. We met Dylan a few years ago, and pretty much we built him a free wheelchair and was just like, here, test it. We'd love you to kind of have this. Give us your feedback, try and break it, all of those things. And yeah, he come back probably, I don't know, maybe 9, 12 months later and was like, guys, I love this product. How can I be more involved? And so long story short, we've been working with Dylan for a little while now, and he's an investor in Rove, the face of the brand, and it's amazing working with someone like Dylan, who's such a big advocate for people with disability, inclusion, and just being out there on kind of so prominent in the media, using our chair is epic. So I think it positions us well, for our sort of future growth plans at the moment, where we're sort of trying to move into the US and the European markets, and not just be confined to Australia.
It's incredible the speed that you can work at for that. I think with the cutting edge designs and the in the 3D printed titanium wheelchairs, which are multi-award winning now, which is very exciting. Can you explain the impact of that advanced technology and materials is having on on both user experience and manufacturing?
I've got a little sample here actually of sort of some of our cross section. I'm not sure if it's going to come up well on the camera, but you can see here how we print it. So from the outside, it looks like a solid piece of titanium. So this is one of the titanium printed pieces, and then on the inside you've got a lattice structure with a thin wall. So the ability of that being the 3D printed parts, we can create like super lightweight parts. We can take out all the mass where it's not necessary. We can create thicker walls through the areas that are higher stresses. And ultimately what that means for the user is you get a stiffer, more efficient wheelchair. So you can go further with each push, but it's also lighter. You can get it in and out of the car easier. You're preserving the shoulders, which is a common issue for people that use wheelchairs. The shoulders kind of get pretty tired as people age. So doing that, and then from being able to customize each single part, we can then create custom geometry and features for every single wheelchair.
So you pitched Rove on Shark Tank but didn't secure investment. Hope it's not a sore point. Can you talk us through that experience and what you think the Sharks missed out on in terms what do they miss in terms of understanding the disability tech market?
Yeah, no, this is a great point, and no, certainly not a sore point. I mean, hey, it would have been great to get investment at what we asked for, but for us, it was again about positioning the brand as more of a mainstream product and not just a disability product. So if we can get on national TV and show Rove to kind of Australia-wide, I mean, that's epic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're on your second startup in disability tech. What advice would you give other entrepreneurs in this space, particularly when it comes to navigating the challenges of scaling and investment?
I think the first one, which we kind of already touched on, was especially from the start, is making sure you've got the lived experience within the team, or at least super close, because that's going to allow you to find sort of your product market fit as soon as possible, or the fastest way. And then, obviously, speed as a startup is critical, not to run out of cash. So, at least having empathy, but definitely that lived experience, which I can speak as not someone that really has lived with disability, but having Bryce on the team, as a core part of the team as a co-founder, just allows us to be more connected to the community, and b just kind of be able to even test the product out, immediately, and have kind of a quicker feature iteration cycle. So yeah, that would be the first one, and then probably the second one, as which I'm learning now, as we're kind of scaling up, is kind of, you can't do everything yourself, and to kind of build a significant company and brand, and actually make a significant impact, like getting the right people in the right seats within the company, and kind of relinquishing a bit of that kind of control of everything is what needs to be happening. And one of my mentors has sort of told me that recently, you need to be bit more focused on building, that team as opposed to kind of the product now. And, it moves into a different stage of building. And so, yeah, I think that's something I'm going through now, and the company's going through now, as we've got 7 core people in the team, a few kind of people as well. And that's sort of still growing as we're trying to scale up production and move into those international markets. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
And how important is it to have more people in the team with lived experience as you scale?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Sam, it was one of our employees here at Rove. He was our first kind of proper employee, I guess, and he's been using a wheelchair since he was a kid. And he's building wheelchairs here at Rove, which is super cool. So, we're trying to keep, I guess 40 to 50% of people at Rove with a lived experience, and it is a challenge. I mean, not sometimes accessibility is an issue, but we've tried to set up a workshop here where, people in wheelchairs are able to do the majority of tasks and that sort of thing. So, that's kind of being built into our culture, I guess, as we grow. That it's all about that lived experience. people in wheelchairs building wheelchairs for people in wheelchairs.
Awesome. And finally, we ask all of our guests if you could please leave our listeners with a remarkable insight about disability, technology, and innovation.
Awesome. I mean, being an Australian manufacturer, I think the biggest one we find incredible is like 80% of assistive technology is imported into Australia. Um, we've got so many skilled engineers, so many skilled machinists, like so many skilled people here in Australia. I don't understand why we can't do it more ourselves. And I guess that's what, everything we do here is sort of built in Australia. And for me, that's one of the stats that kind of boggles my mind. We can do better as Australians, and we can even then, why can't we produce here and start exporting as well? So yeah, that's a big one. I think the other one I don't know the stats on, but just even like the amount of people with disability in the workforce, and especially in say like a manual labor kind of role, is just so low. Maybe you could put the stats up after this, but yeah, like how we can build more accessible workshops, more accessible workplaces. I think yeah, we're in a position to do that as well. So why don't we lead the way?